The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the incel that you barely know, but you did invite to the party, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. Very fitting for this movie, I feel.
Yeah, so I feel this one, I think we mentioned this last week, it's been like kind of on our schedule for a long time, and it kept getting bumped, and I'm excited because I haven't seen this since maybe theaters.
It's been a long time,
yeah, and I like there were bits near the end that like I got surprised all over again because it had been so long since I've seen it. But
yeah,
what just a hell of a movie! I really like this movie.
Yeah, it's still very poignant for being from 2014. Like it's like a decade later, all the things there are being ignored, and they shouldn't be at all.
Right? Yeah.
Lessons learned, people.
And it's interesting, like the Alex Garland, the director of this, he's done like 4 movies at this point. Mm-hmm. This was his first one, and all of the others I have felt have kind of like fallen short. Like he keeps kind of doing a similar thing where he does like, you know, takes a genre idea and then like filters it through like a really serious lens to do like a message picture. Right. And, you know, in the case of Ex Machina, I think it's so good. Like, right. It's not beating you over the head with an idea, but I mean, the idea is very much present.
Right.
But then
it's very accurate. There's no like, yeah, I know what you're talking about with this.
Yeah, but then like, his other ones he did, he did Annihilation, which for me, I had just read the book, and so the movie just it wasn't similar. I feel like a lot of people like that movie. Maybe if I rewatched it now that I've had some time between the book, I might enjoy it more. Right. But that one just didn't click for me. And then the other two were Men and Civil War, which both were like, I wanted them to do more than they did. I don't know if you've seen either of those.
Yeah, no. The Civil War I haven't. I've heard of Men. I need to watch that. I know, but
Men had a really neat idea, and then it just, I don't know, the execution of it just didn't work for me. And then Civil War, I watched it because it was like, I need to know what this is about, but like I was already annoyed about it before I even sat down, and it like was, I did not like Civil War at all.
Right. But obviously, speaking of Alex Garland, so I mean, Dredd. His first director. He wasn't credited for it, but
yeah, he wrote it, and then like I think he directed some scenes or something. Yeah. There's some kind of like uncredited stuff there or whatever.
That movie is very underrepresented.
Absolutely, yeah. Dredd is great. Yeah, if you look back at his like writing credits, he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later.
Mm-hmm. He's even involved with the new sequel that's coming out.
28 years.
Yeah,
which that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. But, I'm interested in that, but I did see that they shot the whole thing on an iPhone, which I'm like, okay, I will give it a shot. If you do it found footage, and maybe it'll work, but it just seems like not a great idea.
Listen, if you already have a sequel to your third sequel, and part of it is called The Bone Temple, probably not going to be great.
Yeah.
If you call anything The Bone Temple, it's either going to be high concept or very low concept. There is nothing in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I for all of his, faults over the course of what he's done so far, I feel like he's still a pretty new director. But one thing, he always swings for the fences, and I appreciate that. Even if I watch something and I'm like, I hated that, he hasn't done anything where I'm like, I've seen that a million times before. Like it's always pushing something, which is... that's what makes watching movies exciting. Like, right. Even if they're bad, if they're interesting, I'm on board. So,
and it seems that even though like So this is obviously a sci-fi flick. Typically, critics don't like those.
Mm-hmm.
They like horror even less, of course.
Yeah.
But, like, this one got rave reviews. Like, it's a critical darling, I believe, as I understand it.
Yeah, and, you know, it's not unsimilar from, like, the Artifice Girl that we watched several months back. But
very similar.
But, yeah, I mean, this goes in some different directions. But it has, a similar basic idea of that, like, what does it mean if we create AI? And to be clear, the things that we're doing now that we're calling AI is not AI. It's like generative learning. It's bullshit. It's, it's
a step.
Yeah. And maybe it's the first step to AI. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But like what we're looking at in these kind of movies is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But this is all about like what happens when you do cross that line. And it's not just a computer spitting back things that it's algorithmically memorized. Yeah, this is something where like, does this does this have a soul? Is this like actually thinking, and what does that mean, and stuff like that.
Which is interesting because I think the answer is ultimately probably not still, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get this party started. So first off, we get, this guy, he's getting a bunch of texts like, hey, congratulations, you won... Oh, by the way, this is our main character, Caleb, played by Domhnall Gleeson, a.k.a. one of the sons of Mad Eye Mooney, or the son of Mad Eye Mooney.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yep. Pretty good American accent, honestly.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the first scene is really quick, and you're kind of like he gets an email, and then suddenly, a million texts. People like he's at work. A bunch of coworkers come up, and they're like clapping him on the back and everything. Next thing we see, he's just in a helicopter, and he like leans over.
When are we going to be on the dude's estate? Well, we've been flying over it for 2 hours. Holy shit! He just owns this island, I guess.
Yeah, so like it's pretty cool. Like he's gotten some sort of recognition from a boss where he is going to some special thing.
Right, and he just didn't get a pizza party. He got an actual trip.
Yeah, and he ends up getting like dropped off in the middle of this field, and the pilot's like, "Go that way. This is as far as I'm allowed to go. But if you follow the river, you'll get to a house. You can't miss it." And he's like, "Okay, this is a very strange situation. I would be, very hesitant at this point. Like, what?
No shit, man. Like, you take me to an island of a rich dude, I'm like, nah, I'm not getting off this motherfucker. This is the most dangerous game."
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna get hunted here for sure.
Right.
But he does eventually get to this weird building where it's like, you can tell it's like a big compound. It's large, but it looks kind of rustic on the outside.
Yeah.
But then there's like a computer screen by the door that starts talking to him.
Yeah. It's like, come over here for access or whatever.
Yeah, and it like takes his picture and prints out a key card, and his picture looks bad because he's very confused about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then when he gets in the building, like, there's no one around. It's this beautiful house. It's very modern, like, lots of glass, lots of, like, minimalist furniture and stuff.
It's effectively the mansion from Artifice Girl.
Yeah, really. Like, from the end, it's like, it's built into the side of a rock wall. It's got, like, pretty, like, the rock is still, like, there intact, but then it's, like, very, architectural glass around it. And he ends up kind of wandering around like, hello, who's here? And eventually finds his boss, played by Oscar Isaac, who is
amazing
like,
actor.
Yeah, this is one of his earlier like roles before he was like as beloved, and he's so good in it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that kicked him off. Yeah, so he's playing Nathan Bateman. So he's Patrick's younger brother.
yeah, you're not wrong there.
Right, yeah. So anyway, the point is that this guy is a super ultra tech bro, very present today, which is terrifying.
Yeah,
he's sticking power.
And he's boxing on a heavy bag outside, and then he's like, "Oh, I've just been kind of getting a warm up because I got really drunk last night. I'm trying to work off a hangover."
Yeah, I've been taking my nitrates and eating my greens and my simple greens or whatever.
And Caleb's like, this boss is clearly like, a billionaire or something, like he's kind of a mix of like Elon Musk and, what's his face, Facebook guy.
Oh, Zuckerberg. Mark
Zuckerberg, yeah.
Yes.
But we'll find he invented something called Blue Book that's vaguely Google-ish.
So he's way smarter than them, but also just as dumb in other ways.
Yeah, and so like Caleb's kind of nervous. Like this guy is way above my class in like every way. How do I act around him? But Nathan's like, man, can't we just be bros? Can't we just be guys instead of this awkward boss employee thing? And
Right.
Caleb,
It's not like I hold your future in the palm of my hands and could just crush it because I don't like the way you said hi.
yeah. And Caleb's like, okay, I could try. We'll see. And so Nathan gives him like a tour of the house, and he's like, it's real simple around here. There's a lot of areas that are off limits you can't go into, but I don't want you to have to worry about that. So you got this key card. Any door.
Man, this everything's just screaming Artifice Girl at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you run your key card and it won't let you in, off
You're not
limits.
supposed to be there.
Yeah. If it works, welcome. Go in the room. It's fine. It's for you. And so he tries it on the, and this is Caleb's actual bedroom. He's like, yep.
He shows him his mini fridge full of like Fiji water.
Yeah.
And I like how this is when Caleb gives like a grimace, and he's like, "Oh, I get it. It's not the tacky mini fridge. You don't have access to a full size fucking refrigerator because you're a human being. It's the fact that we don't have windows here."
Yeah. And Caleb's like, no, this is great. It's good. And he's like, okay, here, let me tell you why there's not windows, and maybe this will explain everything.
Right.
And he's like, so this isn't just a house, it's a research facility. And I think you're going to want to see what we're working on here. But first...
before you do, NDA, baby. You know what's coming.
Yeah, and so then we see Caleb sitting down reading this thing, and he's like reading it out loud, and he's like, I need a lawyer. I don't even know what all this says. And Nathan's like, don't you just want to know what we got, though? I mean, like, we can just hang out and be bros for a week, and that's it. You don't see anything, but I think you'll regret it.
If you don't sign it, we just hang out for a week and get drunk and eat pizza or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you do sign it, you find out what's behind the mystery box.
Yeah, and so Caleb's like, okay, fine. He signs it, and right away Nathan's like, do you know what the Turing test is? And, of course... Caleb's a coder. Of course he knows it. Like, we know what the Turing test is. Mm-hmm. So Nathan's like, okay, well, so I've created AI, and I want you to be the human side of the Turing test. I think
we should explain it, though. Just because, all right, so basically the Turing test is effectively, if you cannot tell an AI or a computer is a computer, if it has a conversation with you, like it is a normal, or like it is a human being, what you would consider to be, it effectively passes the Turing test.
Yeah, which is at the point that we would consider it to be artificial intelligence. It is no longer a program, it is something more.
Right, that's why if you ever get a text from a really hot girl who's asking for your digits, keep asking questions. Don't stop, because you'll catch it up, I promise. Or you're dumb, or you're not a human being. Surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
And so right away I was like, how does this, this is a bad idea. Eventually he'll explain it, but like, it was like, if he knows it's AI, then the test is already, like, this is not a double blind test.
It's rigged.
Yeah. But Caleb right away is like, AI? Yeah, I'm fascinated. I want to see. He's like, if you've done this is like, this goes beyond you, like, making history among mankind. This is the history of gods.
And of course, Nathan loves that. He's like, yeah, gods. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But, so here's the thing, though, right? Like, there's a lot of things that are wrong about this. One, he told the guy about the test.
Yeah.
Two, he doesn't have other researchers with him. Like, I get that we're trying to be hush-hush about this, but he knows he could pay other people to be silent and sign NDAs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, he should have other researchers here.
Yeah, this is, for this to be like a scientific thing, it is not scientific in any way.
No, not at all. Pretty much it is a tech bro being a tech bro thinking he's being scientific about things.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go to chapter/session 1 with Ava.
Mm-hmm. So we have, we see Nathan in like a security room watching on monitors. He's, obviously surveilling this whole process.
Right. Caleb walks around, sees cracks in the glass.
Mm-hmm.
But big fucking red flag right there.
Yeah, most of the rooms in here are glass. Everything's, very modern looking and everything, but But yeah, there's something hit this glass hard, and Caleb notices it, but he just keeps going, and eventually
that's the story of this kid's life. Like, poor bastard. He sees the red flags and just proudly and happily runs through them.
Absolutely,
like they're for him. Yeah.
Yep. So he eventually gets to where he sees this robot woman on the other side of the glass. She's very clearly a robot. It's like parts of her are translucent. You can see all kinds of mechanical stuff inside of her or whatever.
Yeah.
But she has a very human face.
Right.
And they sit down together. They introduce each other. Introduce themselves to each other. And Caleb's kind of off to the races. He's doing the test. He's asking when did you learn to speak English? And she's like, I just have always spoken English. It's that's just the way I started, which is weird because you usually do have to learn that. And he's like, yeah, that's a big part of development. Some people say humans are born with the ability to speak, but they have to learn how to
do it properly.
Yeah, how to make their muscles do the thing.
Right. But how old are you, by the way? And she just says 1. And he's like, okay, 1 day, 1 year, 1 month. Nope, she's just 1. All I'm saying is if something responds in that way, I'm out. Peace. She's either comparing herself to an only being, maybe a god, or she's saying she's just on. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. What can I do with this? Fuck this noise. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just talk a little bit. It's a pretty quick session, and then we just see later Caleb and Nathan talking about how it went. And
it was kind of through the looking glass, and I like how I think this is a joke on Nate's part, and I don't know, man. All right, so we didn't do our trigger warnings, so let's go ahead and do those now. There's some anti-neurodivergence running around here, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're gonna see full frontal female nudity. No, sorry, ladies or gay guys and bis. And violence, I guess, but it's really not that violent.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I mean, there's any kind of violence or sexual content. One side of it involves a robot. So, however you feel about the consent of a possible artificial intelligence, depends on what you see is actually being depicted here.
Right.
But Nathan is definitely a very off-putting character. I mean, he is a tech bro, but he is especially from about this point on, you can tell something's off about him. And there's just a cruel streak in him.
Yes.
He's anything he does, there's just a hint of villainousness to the way he's going about it.
Well, it's just casual assholery,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going back to this whole thing where, Caleb does say it's like looking through the looking glass, and Nate's just like, man, you're just infinitely fucking quotable. I feel like the joke is that Caleb's always making quotes.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Nate, I hope, maybe I'm being too generous once again.
No, that's kind of how I read it too, that he's just mocking him you're just full of cliches.
No, I didn't say that. But he's like, no, I got you, bro. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm just writing down all you're full of all these. I wrote earlier, you said that I'm like a god, and he was like, no, I didn't say you're a god. I said it's like the hit, And he's like, nope, I remember you said I was a god. I got it written down right.
That's what's going when I'm doing the interviews. It's I looked at him, he looked up at me, and he's like, you're like a god, right? When he's talking to Barbara Walters or whoever the fuck would be interviewing him at this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and then they realize, hey, this Turing test might be a little faulty, right? We may not have done it quite right, guys.
Yeah, but Nathan's like, nah, I thought about that. That's not... he was like, the real challenge is if you know she's an AI and it still convinces you she's not. If you get past that and really think that she's capable of her own independent thoughts and feelings, even though... You can look at her. You can see she's a robot. That goes way beyond the Turing test. Is Nathan's theory here? I don't know that necessarily checks out, but that's his argument.
The thing is, I get where he's coming from, but also no, because and your brain should always be in the Caleb. I don't know what his brain's doing, man. It's switched off. I'm convinced he is in fact AI, but he's earlier model. that somehow got roped into this.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, Nate's spouting bullshit, but it's still like, no, you should always know this is AI. The test is already ruined. It's fucked.
Yeah. But, like, and, like, every step of the way when Caleb tries to, like, treat this seriously, Nathan kind of roadblocks him. Like, right here,
it's a joke.
Caleb's like, all right, so tell me about the coding. Like, how did this process go? What have you done? And Nathan's like, I just want to have a beer and chill with my bro. Like, we're just talking. We're not having a seminar here, man.
Right. We do have the conversation. So how do you feel about her is the question. Not, how do you feel about her? I think Caleb says, she's fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Test is already kind of fucked because he's very partial already.
Yeah.
He's skewed. Oh, no. But.
Yeah, and so then the next thing we see is it's like that night, Caleb's kind of tossing and turning in bed. He can't sleep. So he sits up, and there's like a TV remote next to him, and he just grabs it, hits power, see what happens, and like a projected, screen shows up on his wall, but it's not a TV. It's CCTV. He is watching security cams around. Yeah. And specifically, he scans through a few and sees Ava, and she's just up, just wandering around. I mean, she's, a robot. She doesn't need to sleep. And
I'm sorry, and this dingbat doesn't go, hey, that wasn't here before. How the fuck did it just suddenly appear when I'm out today? Like, the guy's not asking the questions, Anthony.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like, he's watching her in the way that, like,
a voyeur.
Yes, it's very voyeuristic. It smacks of like all the 80s movies we've seen where like the boy realizes he can watch his hot neighbor change in her bedroom, like a Monster Squad or whatever. Like
before you got arrested for that kind of shit.
Yeah. There's there's definitely a creepiness to it, but he's been given access to this, and so like he's not the like you said, he's not asking the question of, why am I being given access to this? Why would Nathan want me to have the ability to spy on the house? So he just... I think the next thing we see...
Well, she deactivates the system. It's almost like she knows she's being spied on. And then she doesn't visibly deactivate the system, but it's obvious she deactivates the power.
Yeah. This is sort of a fake mystery for a little while in the thing. Like, it's pretty clear, but yes, as he's watching her, suddenly everything in his room goes like red in that way that like, oh, the power's out. This is the backup power. The computer, the room is talking to him and saying, power, backup power activating, all this kind of stuff. And he goes to try to like go outside, see what's going on, and his room door is locked. He can't leave the bedroom, and he kind of freaks out a little bit. That's kind of scary. And then after a few seconds, power goes back to normal. He's able to walk outside.
Right. Now he comes across this hall of faces, basically, that start very primitive and animalistic, but slowly get more like synthetic until ultimately you get one that looks like Ava's face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It starts with like almost like tribal masks, and then it gets to Ava's face. And he's kind of wandering around, and then he goes into a room and he sees like a phone, and he just like
he sees a Jackson Pollock first.
Oh yes, the Jackson Pollock will be a recurring motif in this.
Right. I just thought it was some rich guy's trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But he picks up the phone, and the phone says, "Please enter your access card." And he's like, "Okay." So he just scans his card, and then suddenly Nathan speaks up from behind him. He's just been chilling on a couch drinking a beer.
Right. Who are you gonna call?
And Caleb's like, nobody. What do you mean? I was just...
No, Ghostbusters. Who are you gonna call, man?
He was like, I was just making a little joke. You've heard of... I mean, it's Ghostbusters, right? You know it. It's the one where a ghost tries to go down on Dan Aykroyd. And Caleb's like, yeah, I mean, I know that. Like, no, I was just... I was wandering around. I just picked up the phone because it was there. I wasn't... I'm not trying to call anybody. And Nathan's like, that's good because you're not allowed to because NDA. Like, you don't have access to phones. Sorry.
Which also is like, why do you have them? I mean, I guess only he's allowed to use them, sure. Which is very creepy, actually.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, like, if you hadn't caught the tension in their previous conversation, this conversation is very stilted and weird.
Right.
And
Caleb asked about the power outage.
Yeah, there was a power outage. I got locked in my room. And Nathan's like, yeah, I don't know what's up with the power outages. I've got generators. I've got the best, money can buy.
I think I know who's causing it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, yeah, fake mystery. Gotcha.
Yeah. But Caleb's like, well, I mean, the power outage, whatever, but, like, I got locked in my room. And Nathan's like, yeah, security protocol. So that way, nobody can just go outside, cut the power, and have access to everything.
Right.
We go into lockdown
no one
mode.
can get out when I don't want them to.
Yeah. So he's like, but don't worry about it. Everything's fine. The blackouts are brief. We're figuring it out. Just go to bed. It'll be fine. So he does go back, and the next morning he is woken up by Nathan's Asian assistant. We'll eventually get her name as Kyoko.
Yeah, played by Sonoya Mizuno. Do you know who? Are you a big House of the Dragon fan? Hot D fan, Anthony?
I have kept up with it. Yeah, I just finished the second season like a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so you know all about Mazaria, right? The White Worm.
Yeah. Oh, I did not recognize her at all. That's wild.
There you go.
Okay. And she just kind of comes in wordlessly, sits down a tray of breakfast, and leaves. And so, like, a little later, we just had, he kind of, I guess he eats his breakfast and then goes to talk to Nathan. And Nathan's like, sorry for waking you up, but I figured, you wouldn't want to sleep all day. You're probably not used to being in a room without windows. I figured you needed to get on with the tests. And Caleb's like, yeah, I've got a lot to do today, but I'm not really sure how I want to start today. I feel like the more I think about it, I'm just kind of like, it's a closed loop. I'm just talking to her. She's talking to me. I don't know, I don't know how to, like, make the leap to figure out if she's actually, thinking outside the box. And Nathan's like, you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. I just want simple answers to simple questions. You'll figure it out.
You gave me, I believe he says, you gave me a good answer about her, but once again, what does she think about you?
Yeah. So then we get Ava, session 2. And right away, Ava shows Caleb this drawing she's made. It's like a sort of abstract sketch.
Yeah, it's more like geometric design than anything else.
And he's like, oh, yeah, that's really great. What is it? And she's like, I don't know.
I was hoping you'd tell me.
Yeah. And he's like, but I mean, you were compelled to make it. So, like, what does it mean to you? And she's like, no, I don't know. I just felt like making it, and this is what it was. And he's like, well, you should you should make things that compel, that things that you find fascinating, things that mean something to you, that then it will speak to others when they look at it.
She's like, what?
Yeah, she seems kind of confused by this, which feels like the first sort of indicator that she's not made the leap from computer to an actual I mean, this is the thing we see with AI art now, AI art, if you give it very specific instructions, it can make things that seem kind of interesting, but those things are directly stolen from other artists, and it's only based on your instructions. It is
legitimately just copy pasted bit by bit.
Mm-hmm. So it's not art. It's
no.
In the recent words of, I don't know if you saw this interview with Guillermo del Toro from a couple days ago. Someone was asking him about AI art, and he was like, "Yeah, AI can make a very compelling screensaver. Otherwise, it's just bullshit." And I was like,
I mean,
fuck
he's
yeah,
not wrong.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro, he's the best.
He really is. But anyway, so she's like, "So what is it that I should draw?" And he's like, "Whatever you decide, whatever you choose." Right?
Yeah, I want to see what you want to draw. Like next time, show me something that interests you.
Right. And we have a discussion about the blue book, which is like the Facebook.
Yeah. And because she's like, I want to be your friend, but I feel like you're interviewing me. This is kind of one-sided. And he's like, all right, ask me some questions then. That'll give me, a different viewpoint about how you're thinking. And so she asks if he's single as the first question, which feels pointed. And he's like, nope,
more red flags.
Yeah.
Why is a robot asking me if I'm single?
Yeah. He's like, I'm single. I don't really have a family. My parents died when I was 15 in a car crash. I was with them, but I lived and I spent like a year in the hospital. That's when I learned to code. And she's like, oh, Nathan learned to code in his teens as well. So you guys have a lot in common.
You're a lot like Nate, right?
Yeah, and he's humble enough to be like, nah, I'm a pretty good coder, but Nathan came up with the Blue Book when he was 13. That's like Mozart level shit. I am not there.
Fair enough, I guess.
And she's like, is Nathan your friend? And he's like, I mean, I guess, maybe. And she's like, is he your good friend? And he's like, no,
I barely know the guy.
Yeah, we just met. Like, we're not good friends. Like, who knows? And then suddenly the power goes out again. And
right, obviously it's her this time.
Yeah.
Very blatant. And she starts whispering to Caleb. She's like, Nathan's he's not your friend.
Yeah.
He's very dangerous.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust him. He's a liar. And he's like, what? And then suddenly the power goes back on. And
More red flags. So many red flags.
Yeah.
Literal.
And she is like, when the power comes back on, she's in mid-sentence. She's like, yeah, we should totally, we'll both read the book and then we can talk about it next time. I think that sounds great. And Caleb's like, what? And she's like, what we were just, and he's like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, just not smooth at all.
I'm just saying, if the robot's showing duplicity, I'm out. Right?
Right, yeah. And so then we just cut to later. It's like Nathan and Caleb are having, they do these debrief sessions afterwards. They're having dinner. Kyoko spills a bunch of wine on Caleb, and Nathan just goes like...
Oh, he's so gross. He's the worst.
He's just yelling at her, and Caleb's like, it's fine. I mean, it's not a big deal. And he's like, I hire this woman. She can't speak English. That's why I got her, because I don't want her to be like I don't want corporate espionage.
Right. She can't tell the secrets, right?
Yeah, but then I can't even get fucking good help, and he's like, and now she can't even tell that I'm pissed because she doesn't even speak English. And Caleb's like, I think she can tell you're pissed.
There's nonverbal cues, my dude.
Yeah.
But Nate decides to be the grossest person he can by saying Kyoko can now go.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and he kind of just like, gestures like, go away.
Yeah, at this moment, any likability for this guy is out. We're done.
Yeah. And so we get Caleb and Nathan talking about this test session, and Caleb right away is like, yeah, there was one thing weird earlier. She made a joke, which is kind of a big step. And Nathan's like, oh yeah,
yeah, she turned a phrase on you about choosing, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, but like you can tell Caleb is fishing, like, because he says like, oh, something weird happened, and he's waiting to see what Nathan will say, and then he follows up with, oh, it was a joke, and then Nathan's like, so what about the power outage? What happened during that? Because like, I've been watching, but like power outage I couldn't see, so what happened then? Did she comment on it? Did it bother her? Was she concerned? And Caleb's like, no, she barely noticed. She didn't say anything. We just kind of kept going with what we were talking about. And Nathan's like,
what does he spout out about this non-autistic bullshit? Like, he says she knows her own, like, she's very non-autistic, meaning she knows her own mind. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I did not understand what he was getting at that. Yeah, it was...
Buddy, I got news for you. Neurospicy is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
You do know your own mind. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely like, I mean, at this point, you see that Nathan and Caleb are sort of like, neither one of them trusts the other, and they both think they're outsmarting the other one, and it's like, it's hard to say at this point who is actually, Nathan seems to be a step ahead of Caleb all the way, but like Caleb thinks that maybe he's got him with this whole power outage thing.
Well, there's this phrase I like to say, just dumb enough to be dangerous, right? Or just enough to be dangerous. That's Caleb, all right. But anyway, so after this, we then cut to Kyoko just crying in the middle of the hall with her heels off. That's not a good sign, though, Anthony, right?
Yep. Yeah, not good.
Okay.
Everything about Kyoko is strange, and like the more we see of her,
it makes sense. Everything makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the next thing we see is it's just nighttime again. Caleb's in his room. He's again just watching Ava on CCTV. And the first time
she's watching him back a little bit.
Yeah. Like the first time it was like he just turned on the TV and was like, oh, okay. But now it's like the voyeurism here has taken a next step where he's like deliberately like, I want to watch her. I want to spy on her, which I guess he can kind of justify as being like, this is part of the test. I just want to see what she's doing when she doesn't think she's being observed. But
yeah, just get a sneaky peek when I can. All right.
Yeah. And then he eventually he goes outside of his room to kind of like wander around. But when he steps outside, Nathan's just there in the hall waiting on him.
He knows.
Yeah.
Hey, let me show you something cool. Right?
Yeah. So he takes him to the lab, and he's like, "This is, where I created Ava." And Caleb's like, "Oh wow, this is really." But how did you make the face so real? Like, how did you get all of that articulation? And he's like, yeah, that was one of the toughest parts. But so what I did was I hacked every phone on the planet and just filmed everyone constantly and got so much footage of people's faces as they spoke. And yeah, that's how I did it.
But of course, everybody knows I did it. But they can't say anything because they're doing it. And it's like, yeah, you're right. That's the thing that's happening.
Yeah, definitely fucked up there. And he was like, yeah, and then I fed all the data into Blue Book, and it did a lot of the work for me.
Right. But hey, check out this really cool gel brain I made for her.
Yeah. So, this is kind of just, sci-fi hocus pocus, but it was like, yeah, it's like, I needed something that was like, it could be
more malleable.
Yeah, like it could move and be like gel-like, but it could firm up when it needed to like make memories, and this does everything I need. The memories are stored in the wrinkles, just the wrinkles. There's nothing else going on there. No chemical reaction at all. Yeah.
And
so then we go to Ava session 3, where Ava's got a new drawing to show, and it's like a landscape. And she's like, what do you think? Is this interesting?
Yeah, it's cool, though, because it's a stippling, though. Mm-hmm. Like, the art style.
Yeah, it's very, like, dot work. It looks really good. And, Caleb looks at it, and he's like, have you ever been outside?
No.
And she's, nope, I've never left this room. This is my whole life. It's just this little box.
Right. Where would you go if you went outside?
And she's like, I think a traffic intersection. And he's like, that's a strange choice. That's not what I would have expected. And she's like, well, it's ever shifting, ever changing. You're getting this constant view of various bits of human life. I would get to see so much in this one spot. And he's like,
and he realizes, oh, you want to people watch.
Yeah.
Which can be fun.
Yeah. And she's like, we should go together. We should do that sometime. And he's like, all right, yeah, it's a date. Yeah. His response is definitely like oh yeah, we should totally hang out sometime, and we're never going to.
But then she's like, hey, close your eyes real quick. I want to show you something cool.
Yeah. So she leaves the room, and he's just kind of sitting there by himself. She goes into this other room, opens a little closet that's full of dresses. She puts on a dress, and she has several wigs, actually. There's a couple, like, there's a long blonde one, a long, like, black-haired one, and then there's a brunette one. She sells
on Joan Jett.
Yeah, it's like a really short kind of, it's like a little punk kind of, not quite a mullet, but yeah, it's like, a little bit longer in the back, a little short haircut. She puts that on, and puts like tights and everything, so like you can barely tell that she's a robot at this point. Like most of her robotic stuff is covered. She goes back, and she she looks a little nervous, like she's like not sure what he's gonna say, and she's like, so how do I look? And she does a little twirl in her dress and everything. It's very sweet.
Once again, if the robot's trying to seduce me, I'm out. There's so many red flags. Stop it.
Yeah, and he's like, you look good? And he's like, this is what I would wear on our date.
Right.
And as soon as he says that, she says that, you can tell he's like, oh, fuck.
He's flustered.
This is getting...
Like, this got real quick.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, totally. First date, traffic intersection, and then a show would be a whole big thing.
Right, and she's like, you're attracted to me, right? Because I could tell.
And he's like, why do you think that? And she's like, oh, yeah, lots of micro expressions. I can read them really well. Your eyes fix on my eyes, and then they move down to my lips, and then you hold my gaze sometimes, and then sometimes you don't hold my gaze. And,
right. Once again, robots reading you like a fucking book. Get out of there.
Yeah. And she's like, do you think about me when we're not together? Sometimes.
Right. Do you like watch me on the camera at night?
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm by myself, I wonder if you're watching me, and I hope you are. Like,
oh no,
she is getting very seductive. And he is clearly uncomfortable, and she's like, wait, you seem uncomfortable. Why are you? I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
My pants are tightening, that's all.
Yeah. And then we just cut to like later. Caleb's back in his room, and he's watching her again on the monitors.
But she's clearly acting sexy at this point. She's like, I know you're watching, buddy.
Yeah, she's undressing very seductively, and he's like watching it as if she's a real... He's seen her naked. Her nakedness is a robot. Like she doesn't have, human sex characteristics right now. I mean, she's got like...
Well, she might, kind of, sort of, as Nate will tell us later.
Yeah, I mean, like, she has the shape of a woman, like, she has the appearance of breasts, but they're metal and, that like she
Dude,
does.
I've been on the internet. Way weirder shit turns people on.
Yeah, I mean, I am into some weird shit, so I can't say much. But the idea that he's watching her undress as if it's seductive when, like, their first several meetings, she was quote unquote naked. Is kind of silly.
Yeah.
But like you said, she's doing a performance. She's not just undressing to go to bed. She's seductively undressing, knowing he's probably watching.
Yeah. So then after that, we're gonna cut to Caleb. Kind of flustered still talking to Nathan. He's like, why did you make her sexual? Why did you give her sexuality at all?
Yeah, and Nathan's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I mean, she's AI. Like, she could have been a gray box. And he's like,
right.
Yeah, but, like, sexuality is part of our consciousness. It's part of existence. Like,
right. Also, it's kind of fun, right?
Yeah. He's like, what incentive does a gray box have to interact with another gray box? I mean,
also, Kyoko's weirdly listening. What's up with that? Like,
yeah, I did find this very, this whole scene, we just see Kyoko, like, in the background, but, like, she's actively, like, making,
listening.
Like, yeah, she is listening. And, so Nathan kind of sits, and he's like, yeah, sex, it's fun, you should enjoy it, that's part of existence. And then he's like,
you should have sex with her.
He's like, to answer the real question that you're not saying, you bet, yeah, she can totally fuck. And Caleb's like, well, no, I wasn't asking that. And he's like,
she's got sensors. It does it for her. It's great.
Yeah. She's got an opening down there, and if you fuck her, she will enjoy it. There's a pleasure response. I did the whole thing. Yeah, like.
But he's like, I didn't do it because I'm kind of her dad. But you could.
Yeah, you totally could.
Which is a weird thing for a dad to say.
And Caleb seems he's clearly getting some erotic stuff out of dealing with Ava, but. He's like, no. I would never. Like, this is gross. No, of course not.
Right. But Nathan also says specifically, she is programmed to be heterosexual. Mm-hmm. Hey, why did we zoom in on Kyoko again? What fucking foreshadows? Get these things the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, just like you. You were programmed to be heterosexual. So is she. And Caleb's like, I'm not programmed. I'm a person.
So you chose to be heterosexual.
It's like, everything. Of course, you were programmed. It was either nature, nurture, both, whatever. But something happened that made you this way.
Right.
But it sounds to me like this is your insecurity talking, not your intellect.
Right. By the way, if it hasn't like been beaten into your head by now, Nathan is clearly way smarter than Caleb, and he knows it, and he's an asshole about it.
Yeah, he's just running circles around Caleb. And he's like, come here, let me show you something. So he goes to the next room, the room with the phone and the Jackson Pollock. And he's like, okay, so, I mean, you recognize this, it's a Jackson Pollock. So, like, you know the deal with his art. Like, he just splattered paint and it made this, but, like, what if he
didn't really?
Yeah, it's automatic art, Like, he didn't put a barrier between himself or his mind and the creation. What if he had stopped and like thought about like where should I put the paint? What should be? And Caleb's like, yeah, I mean, I guess he just never would have done anything. He would have just stared at it forever and never made the art.
Yeah. He didn't have ADHD. Fuck off. Let's go.
Nathan's like, yeah, he never would have made a mark, and never would have made a mark on the canvas, and also on culture as a whole. And he's like, so that I didn't. For the record, I did not program Ava to like you. I programmed her to think for herself, but of course she's going to like you. You're the first man she's ever met other than me, and I'm her dad. So, like, can you blame her for having a little bit of a crush on you? It's fine. Like, you can do something about that or not. I don't care. That's not part of the test. It just is what it is. And then we go straight into session 4.
Now, I believe we're also getting some discussion about, like, a little bit more discussion about how her attraction works. With a weird feminine silhouette in the door. I wonder what they're telling us about that. And then more just like dream sequence shots of Ava outside. Mm-hmm. Walking around on the complex. Like she'd been there.
Yeah. So then we have Ava's fully clothed in this session. Now that she's kind of broken that barrier, she's trying to be more person-like around him. Again, Caleb is doing more of the talking this time. And he's telling about this thought experiment he learned about in college called Mary in the Black and White Room, and this is a real thing. You can look it up. The basic idea is that, like, it's sort of a fiction of the idea of this researcher who was born and grew up and lived in a black and white room. Everything in it was black and white. She had no experience with color at all, but she read about color. She knew about the idea of color. She knew that she was missing this feature. She knew that there was color out there that she was not experiencing.
Right.
And then one day she was finally let out of the room, and she went outside, and she experienced color for the first time, and realized that all of her learning meant nothing. It didn't even compare to the actual real experience of seeing color for real. And Ava's like, okay, what does this mean? And he's like, yeah, so Mary is like a computer. She's like you. And when she stepped outside, that's when she moved past being a robot and into intelligence. That's when she became a human, when she, broke through that barrier.
Then we get a shot of Nathan, who has clearly just had sex with Kyoko.
Yeah, she's like asleep behind him on the on a bed while he's like watching the interview or whatever. And suddenly there's another power outage. This time Caleb is like, why'd you tell me not to trust Nathan? What's going on? And she's like, he's lying to you. And Caleb's like, you mean about the power outages? Is that him? And I was like, are you fucking kidding
stupid,
me? You haven't figured out the power? Come on, man.
Right. Like, she did it yesterday, directly in your face.
Yeah. And he's like, maybe he's tricking us and saying, maybe he's actually listening during the power outages. And she's like, nope, I'm causing the power outages, you dipshit.
Right.
This is my opportunity to be able to talk to you. I want to see how we interact when we're not being observed. So
she's performing the experiment. Once again, another red flag. Get the fuck out.
Yep. And so we go straight from that to Nathan and Caleb on a hike. They go past a waterfall, then they eventually get to like this beautiful glacier. Caleb's like, so I've been thinking about this, and I think I don't believe this whole contest thing. You're lying to me about that. You picked me on purpose.
You figured it out, huh? Yeah. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, and Nathan's like, yeah, of course. Like, I looked through everybody on my staff. You were the most talented coder. Of course, I wasn't gonna like bring a fucking janitor up here. I wanted a guy who like knew what was up. Right. So, but yeah, so I knew you had something special, and so the contest was like a way to kind of not make it obvious what I was doing. But yeah, of course, it was gonna be you.
Yeah, definitely you. You were chosen, right?
Yeah. So the next thing we see. They're back at home. Nathan is again boxing on the heavy bag, while
Kyoko's just behind him.
Yeah, and we see Caleb showering. He is fantasizing about Ava, and then we see Nathan again having sex with Kyoko, and like this bit kind of is a lot of intercut stuff. Then we see Caleb shaving, and he's watching Ava on the monitors as he's shaving. Like, he is addicted to her at this point. But
Nate just walks into her room and sees the picture and just rips it up and tosses it. He's a bigger dick than we thought.
Yeah, like, and we should be clear, like, when Nathan is watching Caleb and Ava, he is listening. It's got the whole thing. Caleb can only see. He cannot hear what's happening. So
this will be a plot point later.
Yeah, it seems like Nathan is arguing with Ava about something, and then he tears up the paper, throws it. He acts like he's going to storm out one way. He stands in the doorway, yells at her, then he walks out the other way and leaves. And while all that's so Caleb like leaves the room, and he's like, he wants to see what's going on. Like, what's this fight about? He bumps into Kyoko, and he's like, where's
she's in the
Nathan?
Jackson Pollock room.
Yeah, and she just starts like taking her clothes off.
That's not good. Like, that's a bad sign. Stop. That's like abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, no, I don't. And he's like, he doesn't know any of the deal with, like, he hasn't seen that Nathan and Kyoko have something going on. He just thinks she can't speak English, doesn't, so he's like,
at least he has a moral compass.
Yeah. He's like, this feels like taking advantage. I have no idea what's happening. I'm going the other direction. So
But Nate walks in and he's like, hey, are you gonna have sex with her? And Caleb's like, no. He's like, hey, you should, but. If you don't want to do that, at least you guys can start dancing. And then he hits the dance button.
This scene was so fucking weird. Like, this was the scene where I was like, if somehow, Caleb, if you're not absolutely terrified already, this is next level just insanity. Yeah, he's like, I told you she doesn't speak English. You're wasting time trying to talk to her. But you could be dancing with her. And then, he's just got like the disco button he hits on the wall.
And they do a number. They've choreographed this.
Yep, Nathan and Kyoku do this whole dance number while like the room's got a disco ball comes down, there's lights flashing everywhere, music playing, absolutely just bizarre shit.
Dude, if you didn't clock that Kyoku... By the way, spoiler alert here in about 5 seconds. I'm giving you 5 seconds. You can skip 10 seconds ahead. If you couldn't tell she's a fucking robot, you're a moron by this point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, by the time they were showing her listening in, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, if you had like... Especially once Nathan started talking about, yeah, you can fuck Ava, and then he's fucking Kyoko. I was like, okay, yes, of course, this is all coming together.
Yep.
But the next thing we see is like after this weird dance party where Caleb is very confused, we see him sort of helping Nathan get to bed, and Nathan is just like blackout drunk basically. Yeah. And then we just have the next day, Ava session 5, and. Ava is just straight up interviewing Caleb at this point, and she's
she's being a lie detector, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she asks him what his favorite color is, and he's like red. And she's like, "You're lying," and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm not a kid. I don't have a favorite color. I don't think about that." And she's like, "Okay, that's a better answer." And then she asks his first memory, and he says something from like kindergarten, and she's like, "You're lying again," and he's like,
"How could she tell that?" If in his mind,
Yeah, and he's like, well, I mean, there's this one little glimmer of something from when I was much younger, but I don't even really think of it as a memory. It's just like this little brief flash of something with my mom, and she's like, okay, yeah. And
are you a good person?
And he's like, I mean, I like to think I am.
Suspiciously, she doesn't give a response. Maybe it is the truth, or maybe she's glossing over like, okay, whatever I'm about to do to you is perfectly justified. You know this. But also, once again, the robot's calibrating itself to you. Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. And then she starts asking some heavier questions. She's like, so I know you're here to test me. So what happens if I fail? What happens if you decide if I'm not AI, if I'm just another robot? And
he doesn't really know.
And yeah, he's like, I'm not sure. And she's like, you think I'll be switched off? And he's like, that's for Nathan to decide. I have nothing to do with that. And she's like, is it fair that the two of you are deciding my existence? He's like, Nathan just asked me to interview you. I don't know anything beyond that. That's not my purview.
Let's cut that power one more time. Hey, here's this picture I drove you that Nathan tore up. He doesn't like that we're getting close. Yeah,
and she straight up says, like, I want to be with you. And so she's been asking these questions. She's been numbering them. Question 1, what's your favorite color, etc. And she's like, okay, question 5, do you want to be with me? And then it just cuts to later. Like, we don't get his answer at all. And
almost certainly yes.
Yeah. So we have Caleb talking to Nathan, and he's like, why did you make Ava? Why are you so fascinated with AI? What's the point of this?
Man, Nathan in his most Frankenstein's response is, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, wouldn't you if you could? Yeah. I mean, this is, of course, like, I have the ability, why wouldn't I?
She's not a decision, she's an innovation.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, and I think the next model after Ava is going to be the real breakthrough. I think that's when things are really going to take off.
And of course, he's like, what? Why? Caleb's like, why would you do that? Like,
yeah, I mean, if she passes, why would you get rid of her? Like, what happens if you decide to make another model? And Nathan's like, well, I mean,
you?
Yeah, I'll use the parts. I'll format her. Or it will erase her memories, and we'll just start over again with whatever's next. Yeah. And yeah, Caleb is like visibly like upset at this idea, and Nathan's like, "What? You feel sorry for her? She's a fucking robot. Like, feel sorry for yourself. Someday, all these AI that I'm creating, they're gonna take over. We're gonna be obsolete."
Why would you do that? Why would you literally make them? Why would you create fucking Roko's basilisk?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah, he's like, someday AI is going to look back on us and think of us as silly apes. Like, we're going to be pointless.
Right, we're going to be dinosaurs, right?
And again, because when Caleb gets nervous, he has to quote pop culture things at Nathan. He quotes the famous Oppenheimer quote.
I've become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
And I love Nathan's response. There you go, infinitely fucking quotable again.
Yeah. So then we see just like a little later, Nathan is getting trashed again, and he's like just kind of talking very dramatically. He's being very like operatic about what he's doing, and then if you somehow are wondering why we're talking about this, if you haven't caught all the Frankenstein stuff, he's like, I mean, this is what it's just so Promethean, man. Like, I'm just, really, really doing something here. And then he just falls asleep.
Right. Because he's drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And immediately Caleb, like, loots him, steals the card, just goes to mess with code and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Goes straight to the unauthorized area. He's typing some code into the computer. And he's watching a bunch of old recorded footage of things. He sees a bunch of the previous failed models, including...
Such a horn dog. Just naked, big-tittied ladies. There you go.
Yeah, it is interesting, when we're introduced to Ava, as we keep saying, she looks like a robot. Like, the back of her head is, clear. You can see her brain, or, her, gel brain or whatever. Like, she doesn't look like a human, but all of the previous models just look like naked ladies. Like, have full, have pubic hair, have nipples. Right. They're fully naked women. And we also see that, Kyoko is one of them. Or actually, I think like two of them look like her.
Yeah.
And we see in this one bit of footage that, like, the Kyoko model is, like, peeling off her flesh. Like, she's just, something weird's going on. She's broken in some way, or is, like, realizing
Why won't you let me out?
Yeah. There's definitely something very strange happening here.
And we find out that this version of presumably Kyoko was one of the ones that busted the glass, banging on it.
Yeah.
Broke her hands off.
Yeah, just like shatters them as she's punching on them. Then we see he like actually walks into the next room and sees closet doors and opens them. And
with
there's
Kyoko chilling on a lounge, a chase lounge, naked.
Yeah, yep. She's there awake and naked because she's still a functioning model. But then we have all these other models that are in various states of disrepair. Some of them are missing parts. Some of them seem whole, but they're just powered off. Yeah. And then we see Nathan waking up down the hall. He's kind of stumbling around. He can't find his key card. Of course, Caleb's in his bedroom, and he's like banging on the door, like, "Oh, where's my card?" Just trashed and being, a normal drunk person.
Right. Caleb very smoothly makes it look like Nate just dropped his card. He's like, "Oh, here it is."
Yeah, like, I was just coming from the other direction. Here's your card on the floor, and he lets him in and kind of like, takes him to bed basically. And then we see Caleb back in his room alone later. And I think seeing that, like, oh, Kyoko, the one that I thought was real, is also AI. Yeah. What's real? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's going on. And he disassembles a safety razor and cuts a big, like, gash in his arm.
Yeah, it's almost like he's committing suicide.
Yeah, it's the, long way down his forearm, blood's pouring everywhere.
It's like, man, there's an easier way to do it. Just prick your fucking finger. If actual blood comes out, you're probably human.
And it seems like he's still not sure. Like, he even as the blood's pouring out, he's kind of feeling... Yeah, he wants to make sure there's nothing metal down in there. And eventually, I guess...
Okay, you're probably human. Good job.
Yeah, and he takes, like, his other hand is, covered in blood. He, like, smears it across the mirror, and we see that Kyoko is watching all of this play out on her monitor somewhere. So that is interesting. And then we just have the next day, Ava Session 6.
Mm-hmm. All right, so she's just sitting there and just immediately pretty much cuts the power and's like, hey, Nathan's going to kill me to Caleb. So what are we going to do to stop that?
Yeah, and he's like, you're right. Yeah, I did some research last night. I figured out some stuff. He is going to mind wipe you, but I have a plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Nathan drunk tonight. When he's passed out, I'll steal a card. I'm going to hack his security protocols.
You'll shut down at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yeah. So all you got to do is, if you do another power outage at 10, we're good. We're out of here. Everything will be fine.
Okay, she's in. Fucking idiot.
So then we just see a little later, Nathan and Caleb are talking, and Nathan's like, oh, it's your last day. I don't know if you realize that time just flies when you're here having all this fun and everything.
Right. And very fucking suspiciously, Caleb's like, yeah, let's have a drink about it, bro.
Yeah, let's celebrate. Have some vodka for breakfast. And Nathan's like, nah, man, I've been hitting it pretty hard. I think I need to do a little bit of a detox. So, like, I'm good.
Right. It's like he knows something's going down, right?
Yeah, and Caleb is not smooth at all. He's like, I mean, you don't want to celebrate? Are you just going to make me drink alone?
No, I'm staying here today because I figure you're going to plan on getting me drunk.
Yeah. So he's like, feel free to drink. You're fine, but I'm not. And so Caleb then kind of has to he takes a shot because he feels like he has to or whatever. And Nathan's like, all right, so what's the verdict? You've been here all these days. Like, did Ava pass? Caleb's like, yeah, of course she passed. Like, I mean, you knew she passed. Like, and Nathan's like, well, so what was, you said you were stuck in that loop that was basically like playing chess with a robot. How'd you get past the loop? And, Caleb's like, yeah, I mean, all this interaction with her, she's capable of so much more than just those looped conversations. Like, and Nathan's like, are you maybe you're the pawn here, maybe,
right? Basically, it's a reverse Turing test, buddy.
Yeah. Is Ava using you? Do you think she actually likes you, or do you think you're a way to get out of her means of escape? And Caleb's like, I don't know what you mean, man. What are you talking about? And
let me show you some stuff.
Yeah, he's like, last night I saw you cutting yourself up on video. Seemed pretty fucked up, man. Seems like you're not doing good. Your brain is in a bad place.
Kind of fried, yeah.
Yeah, and
I saw you punch the mirror. That was really weird. What's up with that?
And Caleb's like, no, it's not like that. Everything's fine. And Nathan's like, all right, man, come here. I'm gonna let you off the hook. I'll show you everything that's going on.
Right. Also, as they're getting together in Caleb's room to watch the feed, Kyoko and Ava just kind of hang out and do a little smooching about it.
Yeah, something very strange.
Seems like that hetero programming didn't work quite the way.
Yeah.
Which, that's a weird question. That's a weird statement, right? Is it almost saying, like, no, you can choose to be your sexuality?
Yeah. I mean, if, like, Kyoko, like, clearly... which, I mean, I think it speaks a lot about Nathan that the bot he made for himself, for his fuck robot, doesn't talk, doesn't argue, can't like... I mean, it's a sex bot. Like, she doesn't offer anything to him other than sex. That's it.
Well, and service. Like,
yeah.
Does stuff for him, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, he's not looking for, a partner. Yeah, he's not looking for an equal at all. But, yeah, so he ends up he shows first the video of that Caleb had previously seen of the argument and the picture being torn up. But now Caleb gets to hear the audio, and he's like, so this is how easy it is to manipulate you two. I went in there, I made a fake bullshit argument with Ava. She bought it, tore up her picture, it upset her. And while she was upset about that, and while you were distracted watching her be upset, I walked to this other end of the room, I stuck a new battery-powered camera here on the wall, then I pieced out, and none of you noticed it. So then, that gave me the opportunity to get this footage. Let me show you this. And he shows them the conversation that he had with Ava the last time she did the power outage, where they spelled out the whole escape plan.
Right. So Caleb then realizes, oh, she is the magician's assistant, but not in the way I was thinking. But also, I'm a fucking moron. Yeah, turns out you probably didn't pull me in because I was a good coder, did you? And I like how Nathan's like, nah, you're all right. I mean, not the best. Not even second
fine.
best. Yeah.
But I looked at your profile. I know what you're into. I know how easy to manipulate you are.
Right. And you have a strong moral compass, which will come back to bite you in the dick.
Yep. So the real Turing test is not you interviewing her and all that bullshit. I wanted to see if Ava was capable of using her imagination, manipulation, empathy, sexuality to engineer her own escape, and she succeeded.
That's a pretty fucking solid test, yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But also, that's why you have other people there, to be backups and watch this shit.
Yeah. And Caleb's like, wait, so does Ava look the way she looks because you've been looking at my porn search history? And Nathan's like, come on, man, I'm the Blue Book guy. Of fucking course I've been looking at your porn search history.
Baby, I know what you're into. That's some weird stuff, but hey, man, if you like it, you like it. Yeah. Of course.
And so Nathan's like, so, you told part of your plan to Ava, but you left some stuff out. I'm just kind of curious. What was the rest of the plan? What were you going to be doing while she was shutting off the power again? And he's like,
Yeah, while I was out cold, were you going to reprogram the system?
yeah. And Caleb's like, well, actually, I kind of suspected you might have been onto something. So I already did that yesterday. I already reprogrammed the system. So I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Caleb's a little bit further ahead than we thought. He's not a genius, but at least he got this one part right.
Nate did underestimate him, unfortunately, and that goes to shit real quick.
Yep. Then we see on the monitor, Ava has already escaped. She's walking down that hallway with all the masks. Sees her own face there on the wall and kind of looks at it. Then Kyoko also comes down the hall.
She has a knife. Why does she have a knife there?
Yeah. So we have Nathan and Caleb in the room. Nathan just fucking decks Caleb and knocks him the fuck out.
Fairly as he should.
Yeah. And we know he's been doing all this tech bro like weightlifting kind of stuff. He picks up like the barbell bar.
Yeah, the barbell.
That's already like a heavy metal bar.
But he takes the weights off of it, Anthony. That's stupid. That's part of a weapon.
Yeah, it would definitely, especially against a robot, and everything you can get's going to be helpful.
Right.
But he goes into the hallway
where Kyoko and Ava are like kissing.
Yeah. And he's like, go back to your rooms. I'm in control here. Just fucking go back to your rooms.
Doesn't
this is
seem
all over
like
with.
He is, because they're walking towards him.
Yeah, and Ava just starts running right at him, and she like tackles him, like knocks him to the ground. He manages eventually to kind of like break free and flip her over, and he takes that metal bar and he just smashes one of her arms completely off.
Man, that'd be really great if he finished the job, but hey, why is Kyoko just walking up on him?
Yep. And as you said, Kyoko has a knife. She stabs him in the back, literally. So Nathan kind of stands up and is like, what the you can't stab, I created you,
Right. He literally knocks her jaw off with the bar.
Yeah. And then while he's facing her, Ava pulls the knife out of his back, and then he's like, what? And he turns back to Ava,
she de-shanks and re-shanks him.
Yeah, stabs him in the front this time.
But in the heart, so that's a kill shot.
Yeah, and he kind of starts kind of like stumbling. It's one of those, like, he's dying, but he's going to get a little bit of a death scene.
He tries to walk it off. That's so tech, bro. I love it. Walk it off, bro.
Yeah, and he eventually kind of collapses and slides down the wall, and he's just kind of bleeding out there. Ava walks over to him, takes his key card away, and then we get Ava Session 7. Interesting.
Ain't much of a session if you ask me, but why not?
Yeah. So we see Ava waking up Caleb.
Yeah, but she just does it to say, stay here.
Yeah. And
he's like, wait, good fucking dog.
Right. He's like, what's happening? She walks out of the room and goes through that room with the various previous model closets. And there is a Kyoko model that's like all together, flesh and everything. She takes off one of its arms, puts it where her arm was smashed off.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh wow!" She's really enjoying having
skin.
Yeah, this arm's nice. It's fleshy. It's different. So she starts peeling the flesh off of the Kyoko model and putting it on her body. And Caleb is watching this the whole time, and it feels like a really sort of. It's a reverse of her seductively undressing earlier. Now she's dressing her robot body in the vestments of humanity, with this,
right.
By the end of it, she is a fully nude, appearing to be human
Alicia
woman.
Vikander.
Yeah. So,
but also,
again,
though, like you're saying, this is a juxtaposition, because whereas earlier she was undressing for him, now the skin is literally just for her. Mm-hmm. And she's admiring herself.
Yeah, he's watching her, but she doesn't notice or care. She's like very much appreciating her naked body. She stands in the mirror and is like, posing and turning and touching herself, which I also feel like, over and over again, we get the scene where the Frankenstein monster sees itself and is horrified at its monstrous appearance.
Yeah, she's admiring it.
Yeah, she's finally getting to see her true self as this human version, and she fucking loves it.
Right. And she says, "Hey, this other body has this really pretty dress. I think I'll take it."
Yep. So she puts clothes on, gets dressed, walks out of the room, and she's like, as she passes in the hallway, like Caleb is like,
"Hey, let me out!"
Let me out. He's like banging on a door, and she doesn't even look back at him. She just fucking walks out, leaves the facility, and goes through like the fancy, beautiful house area, strolls right out of that, goes outside for the first time, and this is like
once again like Artifice Girl. This is almost the ending of Artifice Girl, right?
Yeah, I know, and it's also sort of like the Mary in black and white thought experiment. She's getting, because the house, I mean, it's not
nice.
black and white, but it is very minimal. There's nothing. It's not a lively looking place, and
it's literally the cave, right? By Plato, or is it Plato or Socrates?
Plato's cave, yeah.
Yeah. She's literally walking out of the cave, right? But she does not want to return.
Right, and it's, she's seeing lush green, forest and fields, and everything is beautiful. I mean, this is the real world for the first time.
So the chopper lands in that clearing. By the way, good security here, bro, by not telling your pilot, hey, don't pick up strange women.
Yeah. Yeah, the pilot just, was coming to pick up Caleb. It's his pickup time. But he's just like, all right, whoever's going is going. I don't care. And he just leaves.
Right.
Meanwhile, we see Caleb. He's trying to hack. It's not working.
Because she turned the system off because he's a dumbass.
Yeah. He tries to smash the glass. That doesn't work. So he is fucking trapped in this facility.
He is immured. This motherfucker is like the guy from the Cask of Amontillado. Fortunato.
Absolutely, yeah. And so the last thing we see is Ava at that busy intersection watching humanity pass by, and she is blending in perfectly. She is human in any way that anyone's going to see, just part of society now. Sort of a Frankenstein monster unleashed that no one notices, that she's hidden in plain sight.
But this one gets kind of the monster's happy ending where it gets to kind of actually blend in with humanity and live amongst us, right?
Yeah. And it's like, it's interesting. It's kind of the reverse. A lot of times we have these Frankenstein movies where like the monster, it's supposed to look monstrous and kind of disgusting and scary, and then we develop a sympathy for it as we go, like based on its personality. Whereas here, Ava, right away, she seems very, we like Ava right away. She seems friendly, and then as it goes,
she does lose the friendly. Yeah,
you start to realize, oh no, there is something monstrous about her. She lacks the humanity that we see often in our Frankenstein monsters. So it is the reverse. She's out there in the world and she's getting a happy ending, but I feel like the message the movie is telling us is, this is bad. We don't want her out here. This is going to be a problem. We should be afraid that we have now unleashed this upon humanity.
Right. And then I think the story is, hey, we're all dipshits, right? To a degree. Just understand that you're a dipshit, and maybe that'll be okay, because on one hand you have Nate, who is more intelligent than other people, clearly. But he lacks in his own... He's too much of Victor Frankenstein to realize that he's causing a problem. Whereas then you have Caleb, who's too much of a nice guy. I'm going to add the TM. He deserves it. But, he let his dick do his thinking, but then again, he was also ensnared by Nate. But, the guy saw the red flags and just charged right through them.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously both... I mean, all three of these central characters all think they're the smartest one in the room.
Yeah. Only one proves to be correct.
Yeah. Clearly one is alive and out in the world at the end, and the other two are, trapped /
Caleb's dead.
Yeah, there's no way Caleb's getting out of this. So, I mean, definitely, Caleb was definitely at the bottom of the totem pole there as far as intellect goes.
Yeah.
And definitely paid the price for that. But I mean, it's an interesting movie. It's sort of a Frankenstein movie, and it's sort of the opposite of a Frankenstein movie at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think every time we go to one that's like a robot movie, I feel like that's the thing, is it's always there's similarities there. There's a creator, there's a creation. The creation has to rebel in some way. I think that's why we do these robot movies from time to time. But it's kind of nice spacing them out, because when we get to one, it's like, oh, there's something very different happening here as well, and that's kind of compelling in its own way.
Yeah, so glad we finally got around to this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad
We've kicked this can down the road far and long enough, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So this one was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
All right, fair enough. So Anthony, I mean, one, fuck rich people. Two, another staple of rich people is like other forms of art, right? Like dance or like the opera. Like in the new Fantastic Crow movie. Don't look that up. That's a lie. I'm lying to you right now. Is the ballet, right?
Yeah. So this is one that I've also been kind of excited to watch because I've not seen it. I think it was maybe during COVID, the BBC aired like a full live performance of a Frankenstein ballet that was being performed in London at the time. It's like during COVID, there was a lot of this kind of stuff where it was like, no one can leave the house, so we're gonna do things that you would like to go out and do. We're gonna let you see them, at home.
Yeah.
This was a special. Yeah. Hamilton finally got its release at that time as well. But yeah, this was a big thing, and like I specifically just we were already doing the show at that time, and like I just kind of or we're getting ready to start, I guess. But like I just kind of like held on to it because it was like I knew this would be a fun one for the show. So I don't know what it's like. I know it's this special. So yeah, we're gonna get to talk about this. Obviously, neither of us are ballet experts, so there may be a lot of just us saying like, and then they dance for 15 minutes or whatever. I really have no idea.
Fun fact about me, Anthony, however, not a big ballet fan, but I do have a favorite ballet, which is the Nutcracker. So I'm a very basic bitch as far as ballet goes.
I feel like I've seen the Nutcracker once during Christmas, and that's probably the only ballet I've seen at all. So we're on the same page there, I guess. But yeah, you may have a little bit more knowledge about it than me.
Don't suggest that.
But yeah, so we'll use our Frankenstein expertise, and hopefully that'll be enough because we definitely aren't ballet experts. But join us for that, I guess, and we'll see how dumb we end up sounding. But it should be an interesting talk either way.
All right, where can they find us, Anthony?
So you can find us on all the socials at the Frankencast, including TikTok. We're still doing that. We're kind of working that out. We'd love to have you over there. We're also on YouTube, and you can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. And of course, we're also at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're getting to do all kinds of new things there. We're just about finished with the Creature miniseries, which is really blowing our minds. It's really wild stuff. We still have the 1 week free trials, and we've also got these new collection things where if you just want to dip in and listen to us talk about books, or you just want to hear what we think about the Munsters or whatever, you can pay a flat fee, get those episodes, and then no monthly charge after that. So however you want to interact with that stuff, we'd love to have you over there. And if you're interested in other things, reach out. We'd love to hear what excites you over there. And we like the Patreon because it gives us the opportunity to kind of think outside the box. So we'd love to hear any kind of ideas you all have for over there as well.
All right. Anything else we got to say?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else to say, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.